As we get older, we start paying a lot more attention to what we eat. And for good reason, our bodies change, and so do our nutritional needs. But here's something that might surprise you. Not all vegetables are created equal, especially for those of us over 60. In fact, some vegetables might do more harm than good if we're not careful. Have you ever eaten something you thought was healthy, only to feel bloated, uncomfortable, or just off afterward? It happens to the best of us. That's why today we're going to talk about 10 vegetables seniors should never eat, or at least ones we should approach with caution. Now, don't worry. This isn't about cutting out all your favorite foods. It's about making smarter choices so you can feel your best every single day. So let's dive in and start with the first few vegetables you might want to rethink. First up, raw spinach. Now I know what you're thinking. Spinach? Really? It's packed with iron and vitamins, so how could it possibly be bad? Well, here's the thing. Raw spinach contains something called oxalates, which for some of us can contribute to kidney stones or even interfere with calcium absorption. And as we age, keeping our bones strong is more important than ever. Now, that doesn't mean you have to give up spinach entirely. Instead, try lightly steaming or sautéing it. Cooking breaks down those oxalates, making it easier on your digestion, and you still get all those wonderful nutrients. Next, let's talk about eggplant. This one's a bit controversial because eggplant can be delicious, especially in dishes like ratatouille or eggplant parmesan. But here's the catch. Eggplant is part of the nightshade family, and for some people, nightshades can trigger joint pain or inflammation. If you've ever noticed your knees or hands feeling a little achy after a meal with eggplant, it might be worth cutting back to see if it makes a difference. Of course, if you don't have any issues with it, enjoy it in moderation. But if you've been dealing with unexplained aches, this could be one vegetable to keep an eye on. And then there's cabbage. Now, cabbage is fantastic for gut health. It's loaded with fiber and probiotics when fermented into sauerkraut. But here's the problem. Raw cabbage can be really tough on digestion, especially for those of us with sensitive stomachs. It can cause gas, bloating, and even discomfort if eaten in large amounts. So what's the solution? Cook it. Lightly steamed, roasted, or even fermented cabbage is much gentler on your system. And if you love coleslaw, try making it with a smaller portion of cabbage and mix in some shredded carrots or apples for easier digestion. Now, these are just the first few vegetables we're looking at today. There are a few more that might surprise you. So let's keep going and talk about why some other common veggies might not be the best choice for seniors. Now that we've talked about spinach, eggplant, and cabbage, let's move on to another vegetable you might want to be cautious with: bell peppers. Now, I love a good bell pepper. They're colorful, crunchy, and full of vitamin C. But here's the thing, like eggplant, they're part of the nightshade family. For some people, especially those with arthritis or joint pain, nightshades can make inflammation worse. If you've ever noticed your joints feeling stiffer after eating peppers, it might be worth experimenting by cutting them out for a week or two to see if you feel a difference. And if you do find they bother you, don't worry. There are plenty of other delicious veggies to replace them with. Try zucchini or cucumbers for that same satisfying crunch without the potential downsides. Next up, raw onions. Now, onions add so much flavor to dishes, and they have some great health benefits like supporting heart health. But raw onions can be really harsh on the stomach, especially as we get older. They're high in FODMAPs, which can cause bloating, gas, and even acid reflux for some people. If you love onions, and who doesn't, try cooking them. Sautéed or caramelized onions are much gentler on digestion, and they still bring that wonderful depth of flavor to your meals. Or if you're adding them raw to salads, use just a little and see how your body reacts. Now here's one that might really surprise you: Corn. Corn is delicious, whether it's fresh off the cob or in a warm bowl of soup. But here's the problem. Corn is tough to digest. As we age, our bodies produce fewer digestive enzymes, and corn's tough outer shell can make it even harder to break down. That's why you might notice it while passing through undigested. If you enjoy corn, try cutting it off the cob or opting for creamed corn, which is a little easier on your stomach. Or better yet, swap it out for sweet potatoes or butternut squash. They're just as satisfying and much gentler on digestion. Now let's talk about something a little different. Canned vegetables. I know they're convenient, and they last forever in the pantry, but here's the issue. Most canned vegetables are loaded with sodium to preserve them, and too much salt can lead to high blood pressure and water retention, which is especially risky for seniors. If you rely on canned veggies for convenience, look for low sodium or no salt added versions, or better yet, try frozen vegetables. They're just as easy to prepare, and they retain more of their natural nutrients without all the extra salt. Now, we've covered quite a few vegetables so far, but there are still a couple more that deserve our attention. So let's keep going and talk about the last few veggies seniors should think twice about. All right, we're down to the last few vegetables on our list, and this next one might be a real shocker: potatoes. Now, before you panic, let me explain. Potatoes themselves aren't bad, but how we prepare them can make a big difference. Fried potatoes, like French fries or hash browns, are loaded with unhealthy fats and can spike blood sugar levels, which is especially risky for seniors watching their glucose. Even mashed potatoes can be a problem if they're loaded with butter and cream. But here's the good news. You don't have to give up potatoes entirely. Just opt for healthier preparations like baked or roasted potatoes with the skin on. That's where most of the fiber is. Or try swapping in cauliflower mash for a lighter, lower-carb alternative. Next up, mushrooms. Now, mushrooms are a great source of nutrients, but here's the catch. They can be very tough to digest, especially if they're eaten raw or undercooked. For some people, they can cause bloating or even an upset stomach. If you love mushrooms, make sure they're cooked thoroughly, sautéed, roasted, or even blended into soups. That makes them much easier on your digestion while still keeping all their wonderful flavors. And finally, iceberg lettuce. Now this one isn't harmful, but compared to other leafy greens, it's pretty low in nutrients. It's mostly water, so while it's fine in a salad, it's not doing much for your health. Instead, try darker greens like romaine, spinach, cooked, as we talked about earlier, or arugula. They're packed with vitamins and minerals that are much more beneficial as we age. Now remember, this isn't about cutting out all these vegetables forever. It's about being mindful of how they affect your body. We're all different, and what bothers one person might be totally fine for another. The key is to listen to your body and make small adjustments where needed. Eating well as we age isn't about restriction. It's about making choices that help us feel our best. So try experimenting with these tips and see what works for you. And hey, if you've noticed other veggies that don't agree with you, share your experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear what's worked or hasn't worked for you. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more tips on living your healthiest, happiest life. After 60, here's to good food, good health, and enjoying every bite along the way.